1. Blog Talk Radio.
Don't touch me. I'll beat your brains out.
You don't even yet! I mean, you can take a knee and try a 56-yard field goal. This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl. Let's get ready to rumble.
I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Gypsy. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children.
Down Fraser! Down George Fraser! Down
California! The big game over Stanford!
I think that the NFL knows what Randy Moss has done with marijuana, and I think the NFL knows what Randy Moss does with marijuana.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Good morning, and thank you for joining me.
Top of the morning. Those of you already on Facebook Live, the millions obviously listening around the world, live from a cloudy and overcast Hollywood, California. This is Tough Love. I'm Alistair Conrad. G, my buddy G is already on Facebook Live. What's up, baby? What are you doing up? Anyway, I'm assuming I'm not going to have as many watchers and listeners today, being that it is Easter. As you can see, I am in my pastel green, ready to go to church. I found God last night, and so I feel as though it's important for me to get to church, and all that fun stuff. I'm worth $1 million. Do you feel like $1 million though? That's the question, G. You are worth $1 million. I agree to that, but do you feel like $1 million? I'll be honest with you. I don't. And that's an April Fool's, by the way. You guys know I'm not religious. I'm just wearing this for shits and giggles. But I do not feel so. I don't feel $1 million. I'll put it that way. I was flashing this morning, unfortunately. But today is Easter. Happy Easter to those of you who actually observe that. Do whatever it is that you do. Go to church or something. And it's also April Fool's Day. So, I mean, how funny is that, by the way? What a great irony of Easter and April Fool's Day being on the same deal. I tend to believe that Jesus is just fashionably late. I know there's the day he's supposed to come back, right? But I really, truly believe he knows it's like cool to be fashionably late. He's just been out of the loop for so long. He doesn't necessarily know when to come back. Like here in Los Angeles, we know. It's the end of the first quarter or midway through the second. Everybody knows. Jesus has just been out of the loop for so long. He just doesn't know. And he's Jesus, so he doesn't want to ask anybody. He should know that, Then again, we talk about the all-knowing God, not all-knowing Jesus. For all we know, Jesus could be some little rich bastard, that we all grew up with. You know that kid. He had the jet ski and like the video games, and that's why you hung out with him. But other than that, you didn't like to. And just imagine like hanging out with, Jesus's, or your friends, and you're all out of booze or something. and one of the guys is like, hey, let's call Jesus. And one of the guys is like, fuck that dude. And the other guy's like, but we got all this water, I love it. So anyway, hopefully you guys are doing good. A lot to get to today. Then there were two as far as March Madness comes. Tomorrow, hold on a sec. G says, I feel like $352.27. I love you, bud. Michigan and Villanova are the last two standing in March Madness. What has, it has come down to this. Both teams yesterday, I'll be honest with you, Michigan, got scared. They were down 7 at half. At one time earlier in the second half, they were down 10 to, the Loyola Chicago, the Cinderella story, the feel-good story, Sister Jean, all that fun stuff. But it just like George Mason in the past, just like VCU in the past, you get to the Final Four, it's a great story, and then the better team wins. And that's what happened yesterday. Michigan has won 13 straight, and they will take on Villanova, who literally just put a beat down on Kansas. I'll look at the box score real quick, but there was a time in the first half, Villanova shot 55% for the game, which, harkens back to the 85 Wildcats when they beat Georgetown, shooting, I think it was 66%. But I don't think they had the three-pointer yet in that game. And Villanova basically shot 45% from three last night. And at one time, they were 10. Bye, G. I'll give you a buzz later. You got off today, by the way. But at one time, they were 10 of 18. And it's very reminiscent watching that game last night of Golden State and Houston in the NBA. It's just, you can fall behind so quickly if one team just catches fire like Villanova did last night. And next thing you know, I think it was 22-4 to start off the game. Kansas went up 2-0, and then Villanova rattled off, I think a 20-2 run or something like that. Happy Easter, cousin. Hope you guys having a good day. And so, it's just one of those things. Kansas is not they're a high scoring team, but they don't do it like Villanova. Villanova is just, everybody on that team can shoot. I mean, they have their power forwards who are shooting threes. Spellman went 3 of 9. Paschal went 4 of 5. That dude, 10 of 11 overall. They just thoroughly dominated Kansas last night. And so what we have is Villanova versus Michigan. Everybody obviously thinks Villanova is going to take it, and quite honestly, they probably should. But you can't, there's certain intangibles that I love to talk about. Certain people don't believe in. But, when you've won 13 straight, like Michigan has, and you're not Loyola of Chicago, or, UMBC or whatever, and you're a real, true D1 blue blood program like Michigan and have players, confidence builds and builds and builds. And you know what? They're going to go with tomorrow night. Not scared. I'm telling you right now, Moritz Wagner, whatever the hell he is, that dude, and don't get me wrong, a part of it is because Loyola Chicago doesn't have necessarily a real big guy, but Wagner looked like he was a giant compared to Loyola Chicago yesterday. Obviously, it's gonna, it's not gonna look as tilted tomorrow night against Villanova, but I still think he's the X factor for Michigan. Obviously, he had the game of his life yesterday, but he is really, really good. I love his fire. I love his determination. I think it's going to be a better game than people think. Do I think Villanova's going to win? Yeah, I do. But at the same time, that's why they play the game. 16 seeds versus 1 seeds were 0-135 before UMBC ended up beating Virginia. So anything can happen. Michigan's got players. Villanova obviously is Villanova, and they look like a well-oiled machine. Nobody's going to beat them. But, again, that's why they play the games. And I'm excited to see it. I'm really excited to see if Michigan can pull through. I had Michigan in the final. I just had them playing Duke and losing to Duke. So in everybody's busted-ass bracket, like this face this morning, it's, that's my one claim to fame, is I saw Michigan, in the Big Ten tourney, and I'm like, yeah, they're going to do all right. So, one thing that I want to hit on, though, aside from that, is, there's an article on ESPN about just the season. It goes for all sports because the longevity of them. Hey, Bri, my little brother, love you. Because the seasons are so long, you kind of forget what happens like in week 2 of the NFL season come playoff time. And, when it comes to basketball and college basketball, this is arguably, the most tumultuous season there's ever been in college basketball. Obviously, starting back in, I want to say it was June or July when Ohio State fired Thad Matta and replaced him with Holtman from Butler. And then all of a sudden the scandals came out for North Carolina and, nothing happened to them. But, all the other big programs, Michigan State, Duke, and so forth, when it comes to infractions and recruiting violations and so forth. And then you had the shoe companies, coming in, Adidas and so forth. People getting fired and people within universities and the AAU programs, having to step down. It was just a lot of stuff happened. And it was, it just made for a real long, intriguing season. And that's not even mentioning LeVar Ball taking his kids out of UCLA, and putting them in to play in Lithuania. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, that guy is so jaded and messed up, that he couldn't even admit that his kids did wrong by stealing shit in China. And he's like, oh, well, UCLA is taking too long, I'm going to pull him out. And then, so you had that. You had the kid from Oklahoma who just blew up at the start of the season, and then obviously tailed off as Oklahoma did. But there was just so much that happened. Sean Miller, Arizona. I mean, the guy, shockingly, I still don't understand. Like, there's videotape of Sean Miller, like, offering, talking about $100,000 payment to a recruit. And somehow, it's like, just gets brushed under the rug, like Calipari style. It's a lot of stuff happened to build up for tomorrow night, Kansas and Villanova. Michael, Dino, top of the morning, you guys. So it's amazing to think back. Like I say, football's 7 months, let's just say. The basketball season's generally 4 to 5 months for college. It's so long, really, you forget about certain things. So, I'm excited again for tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a good one. Anybody wants, to call in and chat, 213-943-3423. Again, 213-943-3423. Okay, so moving on. A couple things. First off, there was a boxing match last night. You guys know me. I love boxing. It's right underneath football for me. And Anthony Joshua beat some shithead last night, Parker or whatever, who was undefeated, but nobody expected him to win, and Joshua won convincingly. He's a heavyweight, Anthony Joshua. He's British. And so after the fight, it's always the hum. That's as a boxing fan, I'm ashamed that they treat us as gullible and stupid as as a fan base as they think we are. And I just wish, and I know it's never going to happen. Chad, happy Easter to you. I know it's never going to happen, unfortunate as it is, because boxing is so goddamn corrupt. But it would be so refreshing to have the fans pick the fights. Because, unfortunately, everybody in the world wants Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua to fight. And it makes sense for them to fight in, say, September or October, November, before the end of the year. Let's put it that way. But apparently, Joshua has to fight some, mandatory challenger, Povetkin, and it's just bullshit. It's just stupid. It pushes back. I hearken back to Mayweather-Pacquiao. Everybody wanted to see that. It didn't happen for 5 fucking years. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that. 5 years, and by the time it happened, even though they still broke, gate records and stuff like that, it was such a watered down product because both of them were 5 years older. And if it happened 5 years earlier, when Pacquiao was just housing people, it could have been different. I don't think the end result would have been, but it could have been. And so it's just frustrating as a boxing fan. You got all these loaded up divisions, the welterweight division right now, the junior welterweight division, middleweight, and you just want to see these fights. And then, because of politics, it's just, they don't happen. So my one wish would just be for fans to be able to pick the fight. Be like, this is what we all want to see. It's widely known. It's common sense. This is what we want. Make it happen. Just make it happen. It's so frustrating. I will say the Canelo Alvarez Triple G rematch that is supposed to happen Cinco de Mayo is 99.9% not going to happen because Canelo failed 2 drug tests for butritinol or whatever, clubetrinol, whatever steroid those Mexicans are putting in the meat down in Mexico right now that everybody's coming up hot on their piss test for. That's what they obviously used as an excuse. And the Nevada Athletic Commission is not buying it. And so it's more than likely that fight is going to be canceled. And even though I'm a massive boxing fan. I couldn't be more happier. After last year's fight in September between Canelo and Triple G and the bullshit draw and the 118-110 card and such a slap in the face to any boxing fan with a semblance of common sense, you know what? This is karma for your ass, Oscar De La Hoya. This is what happens when you're too greedy. And it's obvious. Sometimes you can be a little sneaky, right? And if that scorecard would have been 115, 113, Alvarez, I still would have disagreed. But you know what? At least it could have been arguable. But 118, 110 in a fight that he convincingly lost, I'm so happy this fight is not going and they can suck a dick. I'm so happy. Oscar De La Hoya, it's sad because when he was fighting, he took on anybody at any time. And now all of a sudden he's a promoter and he's got his golden ticket with Canelo. But he's so reluctant to fight him against people that he knows is probably going to lose because he's going to obviously lose his meal ticket. So it's unfortunate for, some boxing fans who aren't smart enough to see through the red tape. But for me, it's a blessing in disguise. I called it probably a month ago. I said, I hope it gets, canceled somehow. And sure enough, it did. I love it. Dino, I know, bud. I can't believe I put something in my phone to remind me to call you. How long are you going to be in Palm Springs? I will do my best to make it out there. I promise. Moving on. Couple NFL tidbits that I have just a massive issue with. First off, John Gruden, coach of the Oakland Raiders, new coach of the Oakland Raiders, mentioned the other day that, I'm surprised as everybody else that Colin Kaepernick hasn't been signed yet. Houston, by the way, signed Brandon Weeden over Colin Kaepernick. If that just doesn't tell you everything you need to know about where the NFL's mindset is on Colin Kaepernick and the front offices not wanting to have to deal with it. Once again, if you can play, you will have a job. Ray Rice isn't playing after he, knocked his girlfriend out in that elevator because he couldn't play anymore. If he was top 3 running back in the league, that shit gets brushed under the rug, as sad as it is, but that's what happens. Colin Kaepernick, real talk, tough love, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. Otherwise, you would be playing. And guess what? Nobody wants to take you on the team as a backup because it's undue press that nobody gives a shit about. They don't want to have to deal with Kaepernick unless they're going to benefit from him. So John Gruden comes out and says, I'm surprised he's not signed yet. Well, guess what? John, how about you sign him then? If you're so surprised that Kaepernick isn't signed yet, sign him. Go for it. There's a reason why he's not signed. He's not talented enough. That's number one. If he was top 5 quarterback in the league, Kaepernick would have a job. Doesn't matter if he burned the flag on the sideline, which obviously he'd be shot and I'd be front of the line to probably do it. But he would have a job. And so to sit there and everybody, I'm just surprised. I'm not surprised at all. He'd be a backup number 1. And on top of it, it would be a circus sideshow that no franchise wants to deal with. Why can't anybody just have real talk? Why can't anybody just say that? Be like, you're not good enough to be a starter. Sorry. And on top of that, the circus that comes with you, it's not worth it. But in our PC culture, that's just, heaven forbid, you just throw out the truth these days. Oh no, heaven forbid. So, as far as Kaepernick, hopefully this whole thing just goes away eventually. He's just not good enough. And therefore, you know what? Bye. Neither was Ray Rice. Guess who you don't hear of anymore? Ray Rice. That's what happens when you beat the shit out of some girl in a elevator. And, you're not good enough to get it back on a team. That's just, as sad as it is about our society, that's just the truth. Look at how many examples there have been about just guys, what's his face? Who's the guy? Leonard Little. He killed a guy while drinking and driving. and he signed a new contract like the next year. If you can play, you'll be on a team no matter what you do, unfortunately. So all this Kaepernick bullshit, just, you know what? Our society, our press, they just don't let stuff go. And, they keep just flaming the fire. And speaking of that, there was one other thing. Oh, yeah. NFL, Roger Goodell, commissioner of the league, said the other day, and this is just a wicked rule. I'm all about safety, I guess, kind of when it comes to football. This is my biggest problem with lawsuits from past players. When it comes to, I didn't know I could, get a, CTE, and I didn't know, hitting my head 5,000 times, a year is going to give me, brain damage. It's like, what do you think it's going to do? What do you think it's going to do? It's bullshit. So they're trying to pass a rule in the NFL saying like any lowering of the head is means for possible ejection. Not only personal foul, but possible ejection. I played football up through my senior year in high school. It is such instinct to tackle with your helmet. That is why you have a helmet. If you don't want helmets to be used as a weapon, get rid of the helmet. Watch rugby. Look how little injuries there are in rugby. How perfect is the form tackling in rugby? Because there isn't a helmet to lead with. Nobody's that stupid to lead with their head without a helmet on. So put leather helmets in. The game can still be physical and brutal, and you can watch rugby and see that it is. But there's not the problems with the mental, the CTEs, the suicides from rugby, because you just don't lead with the helmet. So if it's an issue, because keep in mind, people are getting bigger, stronger, faster this day and age with all the advancements and supplements and just food and just the science behind all the stuff that we're putting in our body. The average size of the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line during their 70s heyday, decade of Super Bowls was, what did they say, 245 pounds? That was their average offensive line. Nowadays, the average is about 310. And these guys are 6'5", 310. They're massive. And now you got linebackers, 6'5", 260. You throw a helmet on them. As society, as fans, people who aren't a linebacker, people who don't play football don't understand how mentally differently wired they are. Like, they are reckless abandon. And so all of a sudden now you throw a helmet, a weapon basically, on a guy. Of course they're going to use it. And a lot of it is keeping their job too. They will do anything because there's a guy right behind them waiting to take their job. So if you want to really limit head injuries, get rid of the helmet. It sounds stupid, right? It does, until you look at rugby and you're like, oh yeah, they figure it out. That's just what you do. It's in life. You adapt to whatever you need to do. If you stub your toe, you put more pressure on the other foot. You make stuff work. You compensate. And that's what you would do if you took away the helmet. You would compensate. I'm telling you this right now. The players would get smaller. There's a lot of things that would happen, I think, if you got rid of the helmet. So, they're not going to. They're not going to get rid of the helmet. But that's a smart way to do it. Anybody have comments? 213-943-3423. Again, 213-943-3423. Listening to Tough Love. One last thing. I got about 5 minutes left on the show. And I might hop into something more too. But, I just keeping with the NFL, I saw something, I don't know, a week or two ago, during free agency, and Brees, And there was a story about, back when he signed with the Saints, how a doctor basically foiled his chances of going to the Dolphins. And the Dolphins doctors didn't believe his torn labrum was going to heal properly. And the Saints came in and said, hey, to us it looks fine. And sure enough, obviously history is history, and Drew Brees is going to be a Hall of Famer. But it's interesting to think, because the Patriots obviously have been dominant since 2001, have won the AFC East almost every year since 2001. I want to say the year Brady went down, in the first game of the season, they still went 11-5 with Matt Castle, but somehow missed the playoffs. And Miami, I want to say, won the division. But aside from that, pretty much Patriots have won the AFC East every year. It's wild to think. And again, the Jets, Bills, and Dolphins have just been a shit show. For the most part, I know 2009, 2010, Mark Sanchez and that great defense with the Jets, AFC Championship 2 years in a row. But for the most part, none of those teams have had a quarterback. Nobody has really, really challenged the Patriots outside of those couple years with the Jets. And so it's interesting to think what it would have been like if Drew Brees would have been on the Dolphins. How many division titles would they have got instead of the Patriots? And how fun would that have been to see Brees and Brady 2 times a year, every year for the last, I think he signed with the Saints in 05 or 06. Think about that. And Brees was doing well. The year, if you remember, the Chargers drafted Phillip Rivers. Actually, they drafted Eli Manning, and Eli Manning said, suck it, I'm not going to San Diego. So they made the trade with the Giants. They get Phillip Rivers. That's 04. Brees in 05 keeps the job, goes 12-4, but tears his labrum. And, I think in the second to last game or last game, playoff game maybe, something like that. And then, Chargers let him go. I think they actually might have traded him to the Saints. I can't remember what it was. And then Phillip Rivers, who I love. I love Phillip Rivers, and Hall of Famer in my mind. But so, Brees moves on. And it's not as though Brees was doing bad. He was doing really, really good. And so it's not, for him to go to the Dolphins at that time, it would have just been so cool to see Brees and Brady fight for, that division. It would have been a lot of fun. B-Rad, happy Easter, my friend. Joe, Denver, I love you guys are joining in. I appreciate it. I can't believe you are on Easter. You obviously don't have shit to do like myself. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting deal. And lastly, I got about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. Tiger Woods next week in the Masters. I don't know.
90 seconds.
I don't know how many of you are as excited as I am. I mentioned it a long time ago when everybody counted Tiger out. And, I came to his defense and just said, the guy's got back issues and back problems. And a lot of people thought he was faking, blah, blah, blah. And said, oh, Tiger's washed up. He'll never, ever be back. Ever. And I said, if healthy and he can stay healthy, Tiger will be back.
Seconds.
He will be back. It's Tiger Woods. It's not all of a sudden like you just forget how to play. And Tiger's arguably, outside of Jack Nicklaus, there's an argument to be made, the best golfer ever. You just don't lose it, and what we're seeing now, Tiger is hopefully back. He's the odds-on favorite. How crazy is this? This time last year, people were doubting if he would ever play again. And now he's the odds-on favorite to win the Masters. And viewership is up. Everything is up. It's just so fun. I live and die by every shot that he does. I don't give a shit what's going on Sunday next week at the Masters. I will be sitting right here watching him every shot. And I'm so excited. I'm so happy for him to be back. A lot of people think of what you want, I don't care. Blog Talk Radio, I'm out with you guys. Tough love. We'll be back next Sunday. Happy Easter to you. Happy April Fools. Drive fast, take chances. I'm out. Facebook Live, obviously, I'm still with you guys. So anyway, I'm happy for him. A lot of people shit on Tiger, especially with, what happened with, the hookers and, banging sluts and stuff like that. Whatever. Shit happens. Was it good? Probably not. But at the same time, you know what? We're all about forgiveness and second chances and stuff like that. And I think he's making the most of it. And selfishly, I just love watching him. It's the same thing with like Barry Sanders. I was so heartbroken when Barry Sanders retired because selfishly, I wanted to keep watching Barry Sanders like run the football. Who doesn't? Jordan. It's just greatness doesn't happen all the time. Many people play pro ball, whatever it is, but there's very rare situations where it is actual game changers. Tiger Woods is a game changer. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Barry Sanders, Jerry Rice. The list is long, but it's small relative to other things. So I love that Tiger's back. I'm so excited, and I can't wait for the Masters to start on Thursday and to watch that and be all in. So anyway, I'm out of here. I'm gonna cruise. I'm gonna drink some Pedialyte maybe, or try and feel better because I feel like a bag of shit right now. But anyway, Kirk, I'm out of here, bud. I'm leaving, but happy Easter to you. I hope you're doing well. And the rest of you, thank you so much. Obviously, it's not lost on me. I love when you guys join in. And you guys have a great Sunday fun day. Drive fast, take chances. Tough love. We'll see you next Sunday. Out. See ya.